One of the most underrepresented group of people when it comes towards sales are women of color, specifically Black women. And on today's episode, my guest Cynthia Barnes and I are going to discuss what are some of the challenges affecting women of color and Black women when it comes towards being effective in sales and why organizations are not, well, being as inclusive as they should be and how we can improve on that. You're going to love this one. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of Sales Evangelist Podcast here on TSC TV on YouTube. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have the one and only Mrs. Cynthia Barnes, and Cynthia runs an organization called the National Association of Women Sales Professionals. And Cynthia, man, I'm telling you, she is one of those people that know how to kill it when it comes to sales. So it made sense to bring Cynthia to talk about this. You see, I wanted to make sure that we're not missing anything. And one of the communities that I've seen that a group of people, and they're so underrepresented, but bring so much success, are women leaders. Some of my best sales leaders were women. I've talked about that on multiple episodes, but also in the fact that women of color don't get a chance to get some of those opportunities. And it may not be like implicit that the organization is, or specifically the organization is not doing this, but some things that may be implied that is not welcoming. And Cynthia is going to go through that and give us some insights. I won't take anything away. She is just like dynamic in so many ways, and you're going to hear that, and I want you to connect with her. Let's go ahead and dive into the episode. Welcome back to the show, Cynthia.
Thank you so much for having me. We always have such a good time.
Of course. You just bring this like energy and excitement. Even just reading your post. Maybe, you know how when you read something, you get to picture somebody's voice, but like, you know, I'm picturing your voice and your energy when I read your post. So I'm just like, yes.
My goal is to be aspirational and to make people want to stand up and say, I'm with you, because together we can get this thing done.
Oh, for sure. And this is why I feel you are perfect for this topic. I queued you up there in the intro and I was bragging about you a bit there. But tell us the organization you run, if you would mind giving us a little piece of it.
I am the founder and CEO of the National Association of Women Sales Professionals. We are a member-based organization of women who sell predominantly B2B services in male-dominated industries like SaaS, tech, cloud. We do have a small percentage of female entrepreneurs, and we provide them with two things. Number one, access to companies who are laser-focused on achieving parity for women in sales, and also the training created by women for women to reach the top 1%.
There you go. Love this. And if you're women in sales and you want to be able to learn from the best, please go ahead and check out the information Cynthia has. And we have a link down below if you're watching this on YouTube. Cynthia, this topic today we want to discuss is, the challenges affecting Black women specifically in sales. And yes. I know that probably, a lot of us have this on our minds now. I've had a lot of conversation with my counterparts in different organizations who are white, and they're thinking, how can I better make sure if my organization did this not purposely, how can we make sure that we're have a diverse team and a diverse atmosphere so we can perform better? And the stats are proving when you have a diverse team, you just perform better. So, but there's specific challenges that are affecting Latinos, or a specific challenge affecting, men or young men trying to get into sales who are Black. But let's talk about women, this women of color. What are some of those challenges, or Black women, that they're facing? Let's talk to that.
I think that anytime you have an underrepresented population, there are going to be challenges facing them that don't face others, just like Latina women have challenges that Black women don't have, and vice versa. When we talk about women in sales as a whole, we'll start there.
Sure.
When women are working at home through this pandemic, they're not only working from home, they're mothers at home, wives at home. They have got 3 different hats at minimum that they have to juggle, per se. And the women that I talk to are doing a bang up job of making sure that they're staying balanced. that comes at a price, and it's normally in mental health, because when you give so much to your company, to your husband, to your kids, what's left for you? So I'm trying to impress upon women, you can't pour from an empty cup. You've got to fill up first so that you can be the rock star, or the top 1%er at work. You can be everything that your kids need. You can be everything that your spouse needs, because it's challenging. This is the hardest thing that I've ever seen women go through.
Mm. Now you bring up a very good point there, and I have obvious family members who are working from home. And before the top of the pandemic, had a major responsibility with my church, and I saw that with some of the families. Like naturally, it just seemed like even when the husband and wife are home, both working
Mhm.
from home, just somehow the mom became like the school teacher, and
Yes.
mom still was helping out with the home. And it was like I grew up in a different era with like a, a single parent, single mom, and my wife fiercely independent. So
Hmm.
she helped me to understand, like we it's a co partnership, right? So we both
Yes.
take on our roles and do that, but not everyone in a situation like that. But I saw that, and I could see how that could be, especially imagine if somebody is single and
Yes.
taking care of their family, and they're leading a sales team and or in sales and try to meet sales numbers. That's tough. And
Yes, it is. Especially you mentioned that part about being the school teacher.
yeah,
If school is not in session and you have to be that school teacher, how are you? I mean, logistically, there's only 24 hours in a day. And if you're working from 8 until 5, 8 until 6, 8 until 7, how are you to teach your kids at home? It's almost impossible. You can't wear two hats at the same time.
yeah, that's cognitive dissonance.
Yes. Yes, it just doesn't work. I would love to see companies put their money where their mouths are and say, we're going to subsidize your childcare.
Wow.
This is a perk that, and not even actually a perk, it's a necessity. If you want to support women in sales who have these multiple hats that they must wear, why not take some of the dollars that you have taken away from training, from travel, from HR, and put them toward and subsidize the childcare? I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I mean, you're making 100% point on that one, because I can imagine those business class tickets would be definitely used effectively
Yes.
for childcare. Or
Yes,
and I
yes.
know some organizations, some communities, they have like even like a co-op where they have like
Hmm.
a private tutor that's going to multiple families or something like that. If a company was thinking that further ahead and having something like that, I mean, I just think that's it's just so smart. Uh,
Yes. But it comes from leadership prioritizing their employees
hmm.
and making a lot of leaders say, well, we can't do that for women because we'd have to do it for the men. So what? So what? When you have policies that make everybody have better work-life balance, your organization will thrive.
Hmm.
And I wish that I could get companies and leadership to stop thinking about, well, if we do it for them, we have to do it for them, and we can't play favoritism. You know what? A little favoritism and a little consideration would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want me to come to work, do all of this hard work for you, be in the top 1%, get clients, and yet you're not going to help me?
Yeah.
That just breaks my heart.
And the interesting thing about that is that it's really an investment,
It
because
is.
and engage. What would you rather have? Not help your team members, and then to have an unengaged workforce, or
Mhm.
to engage, help your clients, I mean your team members, and have an engaged sales force? Because when those sales team members are engaged, they're going to perform. I mean, I can
Yes,
see directly with my business development reps, when they're engaged. I mean, this is on a micro level there, but when they're engaged with their work and engaged doing stuff, I mean, just the performance, the output is amazing,
it
astounding.
is. It is. Now, Donna, we're both married, and you've heard the expression happy wife, happy life. The same thing applies at work. If your women in sales are happy, engaged, feel supported, feel heard, and there's parity,
Yeah.
women already outsell men by 5%.
Yeah.
So what would happen if you gave them the tools they need to thrive rather than just survive?
Oh, shoot, make that up to pump that up to like 7, 8, 10%. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's interesting. I always say this whenever we have this topic. Some of my best sales leaders were women.
Hmm.
And it's not just because they were just women, but it's the simple fact that they were performing really like gangbusters. Lori
Yes.
our big shout out to Lori. But Lori was my sales manager, sales director, and I was just impressed by her from the very, very get go. And then in just the in addition to being a leader and being able to coach us, but in addition to our performance, and then Lisette Santres Schwartz was on my team as well, and Lisette was one that I looked up to, and just amazing. But out of all the folks, they were the ones that they killed it a lot.
Hmm.
And I just think there's different characteristics that they had that some of these
Yes.
guys thought
Yes.
they knew and were entitled to, that made them perform a little different.
Yes. And female-led teams double their revenue of their male-led teams. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay,
And companies that have parity in their sales leadership, 50% women, 50% men, also double their revenue over gender neutral or male heavy
So
teams.
why, Cynthia? Why don't we? Well, let's answer why is that the case, and then also why don't we see more of that? And then let's highlight some of those challenges specifically for Black women, if that's okay.
Sure. You want to know really what I think deep down?
Yeah.
If you are a system that is led by those who don't have a background in diversity,
Mhm.
then you are less likely, and this is predominantly tech companies, you are less likely to prioritize diversity because you didn't grow up in a diverse background.
Mm.
So now when someone comes to you and says, hey, we're the board of directors and we see Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, we see all of this chaos, we've got to do something with diversity, equity, and inclusion. You as a leader who do not have a diverse background or access to experiences with diversity, you are less likely to prioritize it because it's only an idea or a thought to get more revenue. It's not something you feel. Yeah. See, you and we are people of color.
Mhm.
If someone comes to us and says, yes, we need to have parity across the board for all Latinas, Mexicans, Asians, women, all of that, we feel that internally because of our struggle growing up.
Yeah.
Yes. And it is a struggle, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is a challenge for us in some areas that it's not challenging for others.
Hmm.
So does that make sense how I explain it? You only prioritize what hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, and if it's not important to you, then it's definitely not going to make that. If it's not important to a leader, not experiencing that stuff, it's not going to make a priority. It's not going to make an agenda. And unfortunately, it took 2020, the summer of 2020, for a lot of, for voices to be heard,
Mm-hmm.
for people to realize, oh, well,
Yeah.
I never understood it that way. I never heard you before because you never listened before.
Yes. Yes. The fish stinks from the head.
Ooh, fish sting from the head. Ooh. We were talking about fish before this episode, y'all.
Yes. Yes. You know it. You know it.
So break down a little bit more deeply. Let's go to some of the challenges that are facing for women of color when it comes towards sales right now. We talk about some of those, the fact that like a pandemic, but there are any other challenges that you can think of, or you've heard people in your community or your organization have mentioned that they're facing that are very unique to them as women of color.
Yes. So in the advent of all of this racial and systemic bias that has come to the forefront in 2020, companies were coming to us saying, hey, we want not only women in sales, we want other underrepresented groups. And we said, great. That's all well and good. However, if you don't put in place programs to elevate women in sales, then all you're doing is trying to attract them, but you won't retain them. And what I mean by that is if you want something so badly, you've got to make changes to accommodate, to welcome, to create a sense of belonging in your culture rather than just say, come to us. That's like me saying, I'm going to go and promote a company who has a bro culture. They want women, but the women show up and there's ping pong tables and beer drop Fridays, and they're still using things like in their job descriptions, like rock star and crushing it and killer. That tells women, I am not going to be respected if I join your team.
Hmm.
That bro culture has got to stop. And for Black women, and other women of underrepresented groups, and I won't say minorities because that immediately puts us at a disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to say underrepresented populations. For underrepresented populations, we are watching. And
Hmm.
we already don't make the same amount on the dollar that white men do. Women make 80 cents. Women and underrepresented populations make anywhere between 60 and 70 cents. So when you're talking about bringing me to the table, I see a leadership team of all men. I see your bro culture at work. I see your social media posts in which you have the bro culture heavily prominent. And I see your job postings with all types of things. Why do I want to come work for you?
Hmm.
And if we talk about women who are leaving the workforce because they can't be that mother and the teacher and the wife and all of those things, it's a triple whammy.
Yeah.
It is a triple whammy.
So it's even if they, because the company leaders might say, well, we have hired, women of color, we've hired Black women, but they're not, they just choose not to stay. Well, it's not that they're not choosing not to stay. It's the fact that your implicit activities or your implicit requirements or your environment, you're not changing that per
Yes,
se, and that is not. So obviously people are not going to feel comfortable. You're going to go where you can feel comfortable. um,
exactly. You can invite me to the table and give me a seat at the table, and you can think that you've done a bang up job and said, hey, we invited all the women of color or the underrepresented populations to the table.
yeah,
If you don't give us anything to eat, how welcome are we going to feel?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll go to the next house over there. They got something else that I like.
Exactly. Exactly. It's about creating a culture of belonging.
Yeah,
How do we give our women a voice, not just a seat at the table, but a voice where they are heard, respected, and we pay them fairly, just like everybody else? Of course, that would mean that they'd have to have full transparency and divulge all of the salaries of all their employees.
yeah. I was going to ask, how do we make a change to this? But that's one area, is being more, paying people accordingly, like paying.
Yes. And that transparency, because you can say we pay everybody accordingly, but if I don't see it, I'm already suspect.
Yeah,
I'm already suspicious of your activities. You've got to show me because your lip service is not enough.
yeah.
Yeah,
We take care of our team. Like,
sure, sure. Yeah, I see them, but what about me? What about me who's struggling to make ends meet? I've got to pay for childcare. I've got to pay for, you know, everything. So the challenges are different. One thing that they can do is to get underrepresented minorities in leadership.
hmm,
Because let's say that company XYZ has an all male leadership team.
yeah,
What happens if they get 50% women and then 25% underrepresented populations on top of that? So now you have voices at the leadership table making decisions, and those decisions, as a Black woman, I'm going to make decisions that are just and fair for everyone, not just those that look like me.
yeah. You bring up, so the things that you bring up, Cynthia, they're not like, in a sense that it's difficult for, it's not like something that is really like ridiculously crazy that they have to spend bajillions of dollars on or hire all these scientists to kind of develop. They're simple things that can be implemented, but it's just this factor that people sometimes just won't change, and that's the sad part. Like it's
Mhm.
not too difficult to change this stuff. I mean, think about it. It just makes sense. If you have a leadership team, why all the leadership team look exactly the same? Like that doesn't make sense if you're leading a group that is not representative of that leadership team.
Well, think about this now. If I have a company that subscribes to the bro culture,
Yeah,
I want to be surrounded by people that amplify that.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
mhm,
I may have one or two tokens.
yeah,
However, my success model for however long we've been in business has been I want my buddies, there's cronyism, there's nepotism. And when you go in and try to challenge the status quo, you are going to get pushback like you've never seen.
what are some of those pushbacks you've heard your women leaders talk about, or women sellers talk about?
Yes. The number one is when we're talking about recruiters, you go to your recruiting staff and you say, I want more women in sales. And the sales managers come back with, well, we're going to hire the best one for the job. Well, why do they have to be mutually exclusive?
Exactly. You're telling me that
Yes,
women couldn't be a best salesperson for a job?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When we worked with an automotive company down in South Carolina, they told us that we did a town hall,
Mhm.
and the men in the audience, the salesmen, said, if we hire more women, what happens to my job? And so I said, well, I can understand where you're coming from. If you are doing your job and exceeding quota, then there's no threat to you,
Yeah.
right?
There
But
should.
that's the mentality that we've got to contend with. And that mentality at the sales level, the sales rep level, comes from above.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the CEO can say all night and day, I want to achieve 50% parity. I want women in sales. But unless he gets the buy-in of mid-level managers, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. I've seen it time and time again. I can go into companies and say, here's a plan. Here is step by step by step. Here's your strategy. All you've got to do is implement it. And they come back and they say, well, my mid-level managers don't want to do it. And I say, well, as the influencer of this organization, surely you can influence your middle managers to do the right thing. But
Yeah.
again, it comes down to what's your priority?
Yeah. And
I
I
don't
think
accept any excuses.
I love that. I love that. And I think just my big takeaway from all of this is that if this is going to change, then the one, leadership should be able to should reflect this and to recognize this. But two, leadership should understand that, or I guess it's these that the succession plan is has to be inclusive.
Yes.
The succession plan can't be that we're going to give Joe or John or Ben or these individuals the opportunity, or I'm going to set it up for them. And if that's the case, you might say, well, they're the ones that are in the top leadership, the next roles down. What can we
Mhm.
do to get more leaders who don't look like me or look like them to be a part
Sure.
of this as well? And I think that's for me as a leader building an organization and also working an organization. It's important. Change your culture, give opportunities for other people, and don't be threatened
Yes.
minority or sorry underrepresented communities or
Yes.
individuals.
Someone checked me on it.
Yeah,
Someone checked me on it. And I thought about it and I said, the moment you call me a minority, that puts me in a mindset of I'm less than.
yeah,
So, part of being the leader of a women in sales organization is to empower our women with the right mindset and the right verbiage around and the awareness around those microaggressions. And
yeah,
I want to talk about something that is huge because women in sales are not victims. We are not going to sit around especially in 2020, 2021 with the female vice president. We're not going to sit idly by and wait for someone to give us what we have already earned. Women, and this is something that we're focusing on for this first quarter at NAWSP, is women as change agents. We're going to equip our members and those who want to follow along with the tools, the knowledge, the education to go into your organization and say, here is a strategy for how you can achieve parity. And we're going to lead from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And if you don't see the change that you want we've got to be the change that we want to see. And if you don't see that change, I've got a handful of companies, about 25, that are walking the walk instead of just talking the talk. You've got to go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated.
Hey, listen, if y'all listening to this and you feel like you need to find a place, you need to go reach out to Cynthia. Cynthia, I appreciate you coming on the show today. If folks want to get in touch with you, want to connect with you, with the organization, or just to be your friend, where do they go about doing so?
Yes, I love friends. Yes. NAWSP.org. You can read all about us. You can read our blogs. You can join our association. And LinkedIn is where I am probably 5 hours a day. So whether it's posting or commenting or engaging, I'm easy to find. And I love connecting with women and men who are laser focused on challenging the status quo, because it's going to take all of us to make a difference, not just onesies and twosies here and there. So thank you so much for having me, allowing me to share my insights and my passion.
Well, it was an absolute honor. Appreciate it, Cynthia.
Thank you so much.
That was the Cynthia Barnes. And if you'd like to connect with Cynthia, I highly recommend you do. Just go ahead and scroll down below. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see links that go back to our website and also back to Cynthia. As well as if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and hit subscribe. And then make sure you check out the show notes, because we have links to go back to Cynthia and to her website and to some of her amazing content. And I just highly recommend you connect with this individual. Big fan of Cynthia Barnes and the National Association for Women Sales Professional. If you know someone, a woman in sales, just guide them to the organization. Or if you're a woman in sales as well, go ahead and go to that organization. If you're a man, go to the organization and see what we can do to be of better assistance to some of those amazing counterparts that we have, and to create an environment that can be inclusive for all. As always, I share stuff like this because I want to help you. I really do. We have sponsors that they sponsor our show, and we negotiate and talk about great deals. Like, what can we do to give benefit to our audience? You're hearing some of these things. You're seeing their links. I highly recommend you check them out and take advantage of those opportunities. I want you to find more ideal customers. I want you to know what to say when you reach out to them. And I want you to close more deals. But most importantly, I want to challenge you each and every single day to go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.